Spoilers for Towing So Long, issue number 1.
Hey again, this is Captain Hardluck, and today we're doing a follow-up video to talk about criticism I received for my comic book, Toe and So Long. Today we're just going to be looking at some trolls. These are people who were trolling me well before this ever came about. Actually, they were brought into my life because they were illegally recording phone calls with one of my friends in a Discord server, and through multiple interactions with them, discovering a lot of their questionable points of view, which I may bring up during my commentary, developing an antagonistic relationship with these people. And now we've gotten to the point where they're discovering my art and speaking on it. And I want to show that their words on my art aren't just invalidated because I don't like them or because they harass me. I'm going to show objectively. I'm going to dismantle what they've said objectively, proving that they A, did not understand the content, B, came to the content in bad faith, and C, they're just kind of agents of chaos. They don't, they will always claim that they come to these things with an honest view. They put a lot of work into understanding me. Oh, I read it 3 times. You read it 3 times to find what you didn't like about it. That's not the same as reading something 3 times with an earnest desire to give some sort of meaningful analysis. And I think you'll see that there is no meaningful analysis to be taken away from this. If you're an artist, you're going to understand what's going to be coming to you in the future. Again, if you enjoy critical content, hopefully you will recognize some of the pitfalls of being a trolling reviewer, especially, or just a negative reviewer, the pitfalls that can happen there. And don't follow these people who claim to be experts on media so blindly. Go and make your own decisions. Try to divorce yourself from the thoughts of others so that you can objectively enjoy media. Because I think, you know, I have a lot of understanding for the hatred that modern media gets. I sympathize on many dimensions. I've been there myself, but I think a lot of it comes from just uneducated echoing. So just a reverberation of off the walls of a statement that was said without merit, understanding, education, etc. So let's get right to it. Oh, and one more thing. I just wanted to let you all know that Toe and So Long just got its very first professional endorsement by a 4-time Eisner-nominated comic book artist, wherein he compares it to The Inkle by Mobius. For my first comic book, feels pretty good. Seems pretty valid. Seems pretty merited. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to put that input over the input you're about to see, and hopefully you'll understand why by the end of the video. Now, I want to point out, guys, this is against TOS. You're not allowed to upload an identical video to 2 separate channels. So I just want to let you guys know you are breaking YouTube TOS. Maybe just put it on one fucking channel. I don't know why you have to have a Fugitive Red Eye video on Rabid Waffles. Can't you just put it on fucking one, or at least make it somewhat different or something? I don't know, but you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to upload identical content to YouTube on multiple channels, or even from the same channel. You're not allowed to do it. You have to change it in some way, shape, or form. So just read the TOS, guys. But this is what I would call unmerited, an unmerited review, a review with people who don't have review merit. Again, they're not dissecting. I don't know, Fugitive does, but the biases that come from Fugitive and Corbin and then seemingly spill over to Shino, and then there's this other unshown guy who I guess they showed it to. They didn't like it either. So they got 4 guys together who don't like me. Half of them don't like me already, and they decided to put out this review that Hardluck made a terrible comic. So let's see what their opinions are and respond to their criticism and see what we can learn from it.
Your Olympic hero has arrived. It's true.
You are watching Fugitive Red Eye, and welcome to another review. Today we'll be reviewing Captain Hardluck's masterpiece of a comic, Toe and So Long. I'm joined today by Corbin and Spencer.
I guess this is like meme. I hope that this is a meme. I hope that somehow like this stretched out version of my comic book cover isn't like just how it imports and they just leave it like that. I guess, or maybe they want to show off the whole thing. I don't really understand. I mean, there's a lot of visual decisions that maybe it's all just for the lulz. I think maybe it's all just for the lulz. Just to and much like their take on the story itself, it's distorted. So let's go,
Sir. And we're gonna have a good time.
Howdy, Pilgrim.
Okay, tell you what, I'll give a brief outline, and if I miss anything, Spencer, I'm sure, can fill in some of the gaps. So basically, this story is the story of Eek the Cat and the NPC meme going on magic adventures through the scary
I'm not
door.
going to read your meme.
And as they go...
But I don't know who that is.
Going on magic adventures through...
I guess because NPC meme has gray skin. Scary door.
The scary door.
That's Futurama.
And, as they go through these scary doors and the doorscape, which, by the way, not really an original concept. Obviously, the Nightmare Before Christmas literally starts with something like... and I bring this up because Hardluck
Star Wars also has something like this.
Right. Hardluck is really big on, like, copyright and stuff like that. And, like, he's very inconsistent when it comes to borrowing...
Well, maybe we all should be sued by the estate of C.S. Lewis, who had fucking kids go through a door to Narnia. Every time you go through a door and end up... It's almost as if this is an archetypal idea that has been expressed in so many ways. This is not the same idea as Nightmare Before Christmas. It's not the same idea as Monsters, Inc. It's not the same idea as whatever else. It's not the same idea. It's not the same expression. It's just not. So right off the bat, this is just all bad faith. And it's funny, like they point out multiple things that do like a door to a different world. And then they sit there and they say, well, that's just, well, who stole it first?
Ideas or taking inspiration, which obviously all art naturally does. So obviously I don't have a problem with it. I'm just drawing attention to it because it's Hardluck.
Yeah, but he literally thinks that everything has to be original and that you literally can't... like, the way he described it, he said literally any established idea can be copyrighted.
Oh, again, well, any...
No.
Expressed idea, Corbin. And
right.
He's technically right in that if you write something down, that is your copy.
I'm right.
He's technically right on that.
Okay, so this is great. This is we're going to do this so many times. There's going to be so much foot and mouth disease in this fucking review. It's awesome. It's awesome. It's awesome to get trolled, guys. It's fucking awesome to get trolled. It's the best part of being a creative is seeing people get angry that you made something that other people enjoy. It's awesome. Now, I'm just saying, like, this is done in bad faith. These are people who have trolled me for a long time. These are people who have shown up in my Discord and shared scat porn. And if they didn't do it themselves, they invited somebody who did, so it's their fault. I don't know, and I hesitate to get too deep into, their biggest problems with me is that I don't accept their criticisms of me. But as you'll come to learn, they consistently invalidate their own criticism, proving themselves to be meritless reviewers.
Like, literally, though, like, the things he says in here, not expressed ideas?
They are. But the thing is, again, borrowing from ideas.
No, they're not. An endless plane of doors, not the doorscape. I make it clear, it's the endless plane of doors, and they go through the doorscape. Those are two different ideas that are easy to distinguish if you, sit down and read the actual thing, but there is no endless plane of doors. The endless plane of doors does not exist. Nobody's ever done it before. Find me an endless plane of doors. I will secede. I will secede to your criticism, but there's never been an expressed idea of an endless plane of doors. There may have been somebody that had a large space with a lot of doors on it, but did they call it the endless plane of doors and did it function in the way that it does? Is it that uniquely expressed idea? No.
Yes, it's fine. And let's be fair, he probably is fine with fair use. He probably understands that inspiration is a thing. I just find
Inspiration is not fair use, though everybody is inspired by other ideas. So, there's this difference between originality and uniqueness that I don't think people are educated enough on narrative and creativity to understand the nuanced difference between inspiration and, well, he can't tell between inspiration and fair use. Fair use is educational content, transformed content, right? There's a few different clauses for fair use, but none of that has to do with inspiration. If you express the idea differently, and nobody's expressed it in that manner, then it's your expression of that idea. Nobody's expressed this idea the way I have.
He tends to have fairly loose definitions of plagiarism, and I think that a lot of people, their ideas of plagiarism don't actually hold up under scrutiny because they let a lot of things
creepypasta? Okay, well, I stole from a creepypasta. Good to know.
Borrows incredibly from a lot of things, and people just ignore that in media they like, such as anime, which borrows incredibly from a lot of things, and people just ignore that.
Yeah, all narratives borrow from other narratives.
Anyway, back to the story.
And it's not just anime. People recognize it more in anime because of how their productions worked out. But it's basically all of the history of narrative borrows ideas. But there's a distinction between an idea and the expression of an idea. And that's just a little too subtle for you guys. And you just don't have the educational background to understand the history of narrative deeply. And that is just something I keep getting again and again and again. You know, the last guys, they didn't prove to me their like depth of narrative knowledge either. But they had comic books knowledge, which is different than narrative knowledge, strangely enough. You know, things that pertain to comic books specifically, they seem to understand, and art. So I took it with a, you know, I took it with some merit, a grain of merit. Where's the merit, guys? Where's the merit? I don't see it.
Right, and by the way, when I say Eek the Cat and the NPC meme, those are our two main characters, Toe and So Long, whose backstory we get none of, by the way, and
there's nothing original, but there are things that are unique, and if you can't differentiate those two things, I can't help you.
Whose personalities...
They do like to tell us, though. They do like to tell us about the backstory.
Yeah, they do like to mention the backstory.
Authority is important.
Tell you anything about it.
They have a backstory. They don't tell us what it is, though.
Yeah, they like to be like, oh, these characters, we have scanned.
And also, my authority is not forcing you to do anything, by the way. I am not oppressing anybody with my authority on my topics, other than you may feel uncomfy that I disagree with you vehemently and provide you with plenty of facts to back it up. That may make you uncomfy, but that's not oppression. Authority is not inherently pathological.
Your backstory. But anyway, they go through this particular scary door because it smells like apples and magnesium.
I would say anybody with a firm grasp on the importance of like narrative to humanity understands that as well, because they understand the importance of our narratives, or what makes a good narrative. And makes it important.
And somehow that seems like a good smell.
And I would
particular scary door because it smells like apples and magnesium, and somehow that seems like a good smell.
And I would just like to say something before the apples and magnesium thing.
Okay.
Just some of these lines, so the one in particular I want to bring attention to at the beginning. An endless routine of extraordinary misadventures. One might describe it as a fascinating drudgery.
Okay, so this is great. This guy can't read at an 8th grade level. That's because what he's going to bemoan. Here we go. They call it word salad.
It's just a bunch of words.
It's just a bunch of words. So here's what I want to do. I want to do something really instructional. We're going to do an impromptu grammar class. We're going to break down these sentences, subject, predicate, whatever. So the subject of the first sentence, an endless routine. Okay, so a routine is kind of a pattern you might go through, right, through your day. What's your daily routine? So that's a routine. What's an endless routine? That would be if your day never ended and you were just expected to continually do something over and over and over and over again. What is extraordinary? Beyond ordinary. It's 2 words. What is ordinary? Right? That's what's normal. Well, extraordinary is beyond what is normal. And what is misadventure? It's adventure that's gone awry, right? So let's take the full sentence. An endless routine of extraordinary misadventure. So a never-ending pattern of something that is beyond what is normal, and also, it's hard to divide with that. You know what an adventure is. So a misadventure, an adventure that is maybe gone awry. So a never-ending pattern of something that is beyond normal, and that is also sort of an askew journey. And askew. What is another word for adventure? My thesaurus skills are failing me right now. Journey is the best I can do off the top of my head. So I think that sentence makes sense. I don't know what's wrong with that sentence. You can read that sentence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a 6-word sentence, and it's a complete full sentence. The subject is an endless routine, and it's of extraordinary adventure, describing the subject. That's a full sentence. It's 6 words. Let's move on to the next one, guys. One might describe it as a fascinating drudgery. So, 1 is the subject. 1 is an individual, right? That's 1. And they may explain it to you. If somebody had to take what this endless routine of extraordinary misadventure was, this never-ending pattern of beyond normal quirky journey, if they had to describe it to you, they might say it's fascinating. What is fascinating? It fascinates. I should actually know the etymology of the word fascinate. But what is something that fascinates you? It's a topic you're interested in. It's something that's interesting, but it's also a drudgery, a fascinating drudgery. I think there would be a lot of people who were engineers in college, who have a deep love for being an engineer, but when it comes time to learn all these materials and all these formulas and all that, that might be a bit of a fascinating drudgery, right? You have to dig through it to find that but for them it never ends, right? So we have a full context here. One might describe it as a fascinating drudgery. Now this sentence has 8 words in it. Now I know 8 is 2 more than 6, y'all. 8 is 2 more than 6. So that's a pretty long sentence. Okay? But basically what they're upset about here is that I could have described this without any flowery language to it. But I don't fucking want to. I want to write poetry. I want to write prose. I want to take the fact that I have a big vocabulary and fucking use it. So did Stan Lee. So did Tolkien. These are both people that wrote for children, but didn't give a fuck. And I don't think, I don't understand why we keep falling back into this. I don't think it's a valid, how many times does it have to happen again and again for people? You'd think reviewers, people who do these reviews, would be educated enough to know that big words don't automatically mean bad book. And in fact, seems like when people do it, when people take the risk and use a word that has more than 7 letters in it, the kids don't seem to mind. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more here. So I broke down the sentences. They both are perfectly fine sentences. They mean obvious things, obvious to anybody who can read it like a 6th grade level.
It really is just a bunch of words.
It's literally word salad. Like it's like,
not.
hey, this is an interesting story. Trust me.
Somebody who's actually funny.
Yeah, as somebody who's actually funny, as the only professional artist here, who are we to question him?
Yeah.
I guess you're right.
As we know, he's so much better of an
I guess you're right. I guess you're right. I guess you're right.
artist than us. Another thing is these characters imply that they've been in this exact scenario.
Underestimating children,
They end up
underestimating the mental capacity of children is absolutely a downfall. I'm not saying you can't make money with Peppa Pig. I'm not saying you can't make money with children with something that's a bit more dumbed down. That's fine. But the opposite isn't untrue. Who is this for? We're going to talk about the audience because it's great. It just keeps adding up to the incompetence of this review itself.
up in a room with this dystopia that has just a bunch of characters that look like Chris from Deltarune wearing Ralsei's outfits, and they're called snares.
This must be some sort of Big Brother dystopia. Another.
They're called snares.
This must be some sort of Big Brother dystopia. Another.
What, we some kind of Suicide Squad?
Yeah. They said,
When did the other one happen?
yeah, when did this other one happen, and how is that relevant to now? And then he's like, oh, it's ruled by an evil CRT.
Now, obviously, in that, you remember those 2 sentences that were too big for you to even look at and comprehend, even though I just gave you obvious descriptions of them that were obvious if you would have approached it in bad faith and if you wouldn't have turned down your reading comprehension specifically so that you could fail to shit talk my comic. Remember when I said it was a fascinating routine and an endless drudgery? Remember those words that I said that mean things and that are obvious to anybody who takes a second to read them? That's when it happened. When it before this, I already told you there was a before this. If you read it in good faith, but I get it. Flowery poetry isn't for everybody. That's totally fine. You might not like the intros to like chapters of Yamato or Captain Hardluck, but I will want to do something like this. You know, I want poetry. You know, these guys don't like poetry. They probably haven't read a poem in the last 10 years. Any of them. They probably haven't read a fucking poem intentionally in the last 10 years that wasn't like something they skipped through on TikTok or YouTube Shorts.
It's like, again? It's like, wait, so you're saying you've experienced all of this before? Is there a time loop thing involved? Are we going to get any explanation? Also, Corbin brought up a good point. It does not establish that once they go through the door, it disappears. So for all we know, they could have walked right back through the door. But that...
Right, I never said it disappeared. Why are you inferring that? Why are you inferring that I'm saying it disappears? Now, maybe the door doesn't disappear. Maybe the portal disappears from that door. So yeah, maybe they can't go back. But are they interested in going back? Well, they don't know how they go back. They just know that they end up doing so. So we don't know. These guys have a lot of problems with not knowing. And they don't seem to be able to figure out the things that I do tell them. It's rough. It's rough. These guys are rough, you know? It's really rough.
And obviously, like, through the ending, it's implied that the door obviously disappeared.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff expects you to figure out on your own. It doesn't have any explanation for lots of things.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Because a lot of it you can infer.
I was looking at the picture.
Or it does tell you and you didn't read it. Well, they say in the fucking comic they don't know how they get back, so infer it. Why do I have to put in this fucking obnoxious narration square for you? Can't you infer anything? And that's the thing, when I read stories, when it's a visual story, you can infer things. Not everything has to be explained to you. Learn about the world with your eyes as well as your reading comprehension. But the thing is, your reading comprehension and your eyes are so bad that you cannot understand the story.
Doesn't mean anything.
So they meet the computer.
No computer.
See, that is so funny. You both skip over it because Shino is just rambling and neither of you know what the fuck he's talking about. It's so funny.
And the computer says to his subjects...
I don't know what that is.
All the people who are dead have to pay blood tax. Let's harvest their blood. And, I think it's interesting. They compare it to 1984. They say, this is Big Brother Society. Oh, yeah, my favorite part in 1984 is when Big Brother harvested all the blood of the dead.
Who's they? Who's they compare it to 1984? Now, I do allude to 1984 when I say, should we hammer toss this, should we deal with this in that way? But it's like one little bit. A giant computer screen that gives orders. That's it. That's all it takes from 1984. So I'm not trying to retell 1984. I'm not trying to give you a brand new retelling of 1984. I'm using this little motif as something that I'm going to show at some point here, and it'll make sense. But you didn't come to the comic in good faith. There's something about it inherently that turns you off, probably because it was made by me, and you're not reading the goddamn thing. Now, the other guy, I think he's looking at it like, this is Kitty. I want murder noir. I'm not here to please murder noir guy. I'm not here to please fucking Ditko black and white philosophy guy. I'm not here to entertain these, guy who plays Postal 2 on YouTube for too many hours. I'm not here to appease these people. And we'll find out who I'm here to appease.
Cartoonishly exaggerated world from Mr.
Here he is, by the way. This is the guy. This is the guy I'm trying to please. The guy who thinks this is like the best comic ever, one of the best comics ever made. This black and white, ideology guy. This is who I'm talking. I'm not, obviously the guy making monochromatic realistic comics is not what I'm making. If that's what you think is good, then you're probably not going to think the hyper colorful abstract comic book is good. Let's just leave it there and take your lack of merit in review and just save it. But the reason why you're not saving it and not embarrassing yourself is because you're a troll. You're a troll. So this is what you get. Artists, a lot of the times, they get trolls, right? This is what it is to be trolled. And the thing is, it's bait. And the thing about bait often is that it's genuine. Like, it's coming from this genuine place. And it really wants my attention. So it is baited in that way. But it's so painfully ignorant and ill-informed on just narrative and comics and art, and there's so much bad faith that I think it's an embarrassment.
Utopias like use people as like cannibalism. Like the machines use people as a source to keep other people alive, like some for the greater good or whatever. Like,
no,
it doesn't have any explanation. It's like, yep, harvesting people.
The next thing is actually something.
Whoa. There's no explanation? You read this 3 times and you're saying there's no explanation? There's a whole page of it. I explain everything. There's a whole page of it. This explains the entire backstory. None of these words are, too challenging. This is all exposition. It's all explained. And we'll get back to this page in a minute.
Something I want to bring up.
Okay.
This is like a whole thing. Like, when I was reading, I was already sort of like taken out of the story already. Like, I was literally just reading this as like a chore at this point already.
Now, you were reading it as a chore from the very beginning because you knew you were going to come do a recording of a video with your buddies where you were going to shit on something. Because Rabbit Waffles schemed it. He schemed this video up so that he could release some more rage because he's a raging troll and he's very jealous of me. He's very jealous to see that my art is enjoyed and his isn't. So instead of making more of his own art, he gets together this shoddily put together review and shits on me for 30 minutes.
But the thing that really made me just completely this whole interaction after the whole authoritarian CRT again. Toe says, "Why aren't you at all concerned? You know this isn't no." Sorry, I know this isn't our first rodeo, but, and then, so long, it's true. I'm desensitized.
All right, this is great. They can't even read a comic book. This guy complains about this part, and it's funny because Rabbit Waffles cuts off part of it. He can't even cut off all of it because it would cut into that. He's trying to show off how this is bad writing, but he actually just shows off that it's bad reading comprehension.
And then, no, Toe says, "Why aren't you at all concerned? You know this isn't, no, sorry, I know this isn't our first rodeo, but," and then, so long, it's true. I'm desensitized, but listen. And then the next thing isn't just Toe saying, "You're right. In fact..."
No, it's not. And they point it out. So that's not the next thing that he's saying. And there's obviously more to the comic book that you just didn't look at. So let's look at that page and explain how you were reading it as a chore. You came to it in bad faith because you were encouraged by your friends to do so. And you didn't even take the time to read the damn thing because you made up your mind before you even read it. You can lie all you want. You could say, no, this is a good faith review. I was actually surprised how bad it was. Shove it up your ass. You're wrong. You just didn't read the fucking thing. Why aren't you at all concerned? I know this isn't your first rodeo, but... Okay, so here's how you might read it, okay? I don't think... Now, I know. Maybe it should be up here. Maybe it should be crammed up here, okay? Because, dear God, God forbid this. God forbid your eyes have to go up and right in a comic book. I know, I'm blowing your mind here. But God forbid you might read his line and then read the next two lines. Okay, citizens, annual family portraits will commence next cycle. Now, Fugitive also complains that annual family portraits will commence next cycle. Well, what is it, an annual? Can a cycle exist within an annual? Again, you're looking for bullshit problems because you're bullshitting right now. So it goes there and it's true. But listen, the dialogue that literally just happened. But listen, I enjoy that. You're right. Oh, it makes perfect sense if you take half a second to read the damn thing. But you're so obsessed with finding fake problems that you just fucking misread it. And it happens over and over again. It's fucking embarrassing for you.
These guys are actually seem pretty okay with the situation. What did he say?
Right. Like he said, I'm desensitized. That's it. That is not the follow-up to, oh yeah, I'm desensitized.
Right, I just explained how it works.
Editing Red Eye here. Thinking about it after the fact.
Actually trying to be smart, my brain decided I was dumb, and now I'm gonna try. Actually.
Because next to them,
what is this an intentional decision with your webcam? Is it covered in bacon grease? What the fuck? I'm guessing it's in quote unquote intentional.
People are saying, I enjoy this. I think Toe's response is to that, because So Long was saying the first time, but thinking about it after reading this thing fucking times,
using my brain, my brain said, my brain made it good. My brain.
Hey, why don't you care? Oh, I know, I'm desensitized. But listen! But, like, it just feels like exposition to say, oh, look how desensitized we are. And again, it's very poorly worded. It's very easy to mistake that.
And no, it's not. If you're approaching it genuinely, if you're approaching the material in good faith, if you want to understand what's going on in the comic, if you don't have a hate boner already, if you're not trying to get together with your boys and shit on something without any merit, you know, there's one thing, if you want to get with your boys and shit on something, hey, that's great. I've done it too. I've made bad reviews of content before, but I sat down, I took the time with the content, I was educated, I am a scholar of this particular thing that I shit on. I made sure I knew the best that I could what the fuck I was talking about. You have proven over and over and over and over and over again that you do not know.
In between the two,
I don't give a fuck, you know. You're an
the CRT
asshole, dude.
saying, okay,
You're dumb. You're dumb. You exposed that you're dumb here. I'm glad that you hate me. I want you to hate me. Thank you. Thank you for your hate. I don't want dumb people to like me. I don't want ignoramuses who aren't able to read to like me. Those are uneducated people that don't do me any good.
By the way, very annoying that the thing says okay with every sentence.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every single.
It's so annoying that he made the joke. Okay, that's fine. You don't like the joke. That's fine. But at least Fugitive fucking got the joke.
Sentence it says okay at the start because it's
I didn't realize the concept album thing. Let's
name is Official Computer, or OK for short, because computer spelled.
So at least he fucking
I
understood.
guess I'll bring this up now since I brought up his name. Theron pointed out to me that Radiohead has an album called.
So he didn't even. None of these people even know what the fucking reference is. One of the best-selling albums of all goddamn time. They don't know these fucking reference. These guys are real cultured. None of the three people here understood the fucking reference. It took a fourth idiot off camera to fucking get this one.
Computer. And then they also have an album called Kid A that's about, like, a very sterile dystopia. So it seems to me like he's mixing, because, like, in OK Computer, there is, like, this big, like, computer dictator as well, from what I understand. I haven't actually listened to the album, but Theron was telling me about this because he's really into Radiohead.
I've listened to the album, but I don't know the
A lot of this plot is, like, heavily inspired by
deeply.
two Radiohead albums.
So the computer specifically says annual family portraits will commence next cycle. Next cycle.
Yeah, a cycle and a year don't have to be the same. With it, we divide our years, we have months, and we have seasons, and we have years. Isn't that crazy how they all fit? It's like one of those little Russian nesting dolls. You ever used one of those? Isn't that a cute, fun visual aid? Does that help you learn? Would that help you learn? I hope to God there's something that can help you. You seem helpless.
This gentleman says that you two picked a great time to visit. Just about.
Well, the international sales of Radiohead would disagree with your meritless opinion.
Saying that that's way too personal. It's like
right here it says no, it's not too personal to ask if somebody has a family. And then SpongeBob, there's a clip here of SpongeBob asking about somebody's family, and they instantly get nervous, as if the writers of this episode of SpongeBob weren't making a specific comment that being sporadically asked about your family can be a little off-putting, as if that wasn't part of the fucking joke. SpongeBob validates the concept of the joke. So Rabbit Waffles comes in here and edits in validation of my creativity as you try to argue it against it, but then it'll just cut back to these three fucking amigos talking shit. They disprove themselves constantly and yet think they're having this fucking grand slam. It is awkward to be asked about your family by a stranger. It is awkward.
Hear about that family?
It's funny.
Yeah, like it directly contradicts it because he says next cycle and then he's like, oh yeah, we're doing family photos. It's like, is the cycle?
Yeah, it's part of the joke though, buddy. It's part of the joke. It's specifically part of the joke. If you didn't pick up on it, or if it's inconvenient at this point for you to pick up on the goddamn joke, but maybe you're not a writer and maybe you just don't understand writing. Or maybe you don't understand comedic writing. All of these things seem to be true.
Cycle like a second?
the cycle is 2 minutes.
or a month or 3 months. Maybe it's what they say instead of a season. I don't know. Maybe if you had an ounce of curiosity or adventure, or, were willing to have fun with the comic, you could. But instead, you're taking something that's this little fucking throwaway, fucking sci-fi bullshit line to just move the fucking plot along and make another joke, and you fucking obsess over it because you're desperate to find something to shit on.
So thinking about it again after the fact, a very important detail that Spencer and I glossed over here. It says
another one? Whoa, these guys are glossing over details? All of a sudden.
It's fucking annual. So it should be next year.
No, that's not how time and space work. This guy doesn't even understand how time and space works. The most fundamental, I'm not talking about Einstein shit. I'm not talking about the theory of relativity. I'm not talking about gravitational black holes. I'm talking about the fact that you can have you can have periods of time inside of a year, and then they're here like fucking trying to, they're just making themselves look dumber and dumber and dumber.
Because he says annual and next cycle. Unless a year is like 20 fucking seconds in this weird space station, I don't know what the hell.
Give anything.
Could be any amount of time. Isn't that embarrassing for you, Fugitive? Aren't you embarrassed? Aren't you ashamed that you weren't able to grasp the most basic functions of time, that cycles could fit within years, and then you're like, what are they, 2 seconds? What are they, 2 seconds? What are their cycles, 2 seconds?
Thing away about either
Clowns
of the main
indeed.
characters, like, nothing of their backstory. They only hint at the possibility.
You objectively know things about their backstory. You don't know their full backstory. There are objectively things that you know about their backstory. You don't know everything about their backstory. Not yet. Not yet. Why is that a problem? Why do you have to know their entire fucking backstory up front? It's not like I can just say Peter Parker was an unassuming teenager. Okay, good enough. All right, well, let's move it along. The backstory is going to be important to the series. There's more than one coming out. I'm working on number 2. I always said it was going to be episodic with an overarching story. It's manga storytelling 101. You should have picked this up when you were reading Go Nagai. Did you know the full backstory of fucking I don't know the full backstory of Captain Hardluck in issue 1 of Captain Hardluck. Like, what? There's plenty of questions. There's plenty of mystery.
That they might have a backstory.
And it's got flowery prose in front of it. So even if it doesn't have big words, though, you know, we're talking about Japanese and English and different, you know, Romanized language versus Japanese language. One has a much more expansive vocabulary than the other. These are things that require some sort of merited understanding of narrative and writing and storytelling. And I shouldn't expect that.
Story.
Right.
And then that's about. And they have like no personality. They all word things the same way Captain Hardluck words things. Like all the characters are just talk like Captain Hardluck would, I guess.
Right. So like with that, right?
I don't think that my prose is like how I speak, but I mean, I guess I'll take the criticism that my writing sounds like me. Unfortunate. Maybe it's too stylized. I will say that, I would say that, okay, maybe I didn't make the differences between Toe and So Long potent enough. Maybe I shouldn't be so subtle with it. Maybe I should be more over the head. But then I've gotten another message about So Long, and they're like, man, that So Long character, this was somebody who was speaking positively about the story. Oh, that So Long character is a total asshole. And I was like, whoa. I wanted to make them a little bit snarky. I don't think every character is snarky, but maybe they are, you know. I tried to give So Long just the smidgest more snark, and they were like, this character's an asshole. And I was like, wow. So, you know, I don't want to wield dialogue like a fucking hammer when I'm dealing with screws. That, I think, even narratives for children can be handled more delicately than that.
Computer basically says, take these, wait, Corbin, what does he say? He says it in really bad grammar. Because he talks...
you have not had an interruption to our daily doctrine announcements in 2 generations. Guards, seize strangers.
Yeah, seize strangers.
Okay. Go ahead.
Not seize the strangers, seize strangers.
That's like...
Seize strangers, not...
Okay, so you missed another joke, Fugitive. The formatting of the copy of the dialogue actually clues you in to the intent of this line, guard sees strangers. If you'll notice, there's a semicolon there. Why would there be a semicolon, and why is everything in all caps? This is a command from a computer. It's formatted like a computer command. It's formatted like code from a computer. So your object, guards, right? Subject, action sees strangers. There's no reason to call them the strangers because it's a computer command, and these are all objects within a list of within a computerized data set. Now, that's over-explaining a joke, and obviously at that point, it's not going to be funny. If you didn't get the joke, if you didn't get the computer coding joke, that's fine. I'm sure you're not a computer coder. I'm sure you've not worked around these types of things. That's okay. I'm not going to judge you for not understanding the computer coding joke. What I am going to judge you for is making an ass of yourself trying to shit on the dialogue there for being an ignorant asshole about it. I don't know if you know what fucking kids are watching on YouTube right now, but when they're done with Mr. Beast, they're watching YouTube videos about fucking NES games. They know what old computers are. They're all being pushed into computer science. Computer science, they introduced them to computer science at fucking age 4 now. They put a fucking coding module in their fucking teething rings, these kids, okay? I think an 8-year-old might understand the joke. But if they don't understand the joke, maybe they'll ask a parent about it who does know, okay? But it's not bad grammar. That's what you accuse me of, and that's what you're fucking wrong about. That's another meritless accusation. Rack them up. I'll count them all. I'll put a counter, because I'm going to edit this and put this on YouTube. I'm going to put a fucking counter on how many times you were wrong about my comic while you're just being an asshole about it, and actually make yourself look foolish.
and then everything Corbin said after that, this all tells me that this is a first draft. There's no way it isn't a first draft. And Hardluck, if you see this,
This is an absolutely meaningless insult. It's an absolutely meaningless insult. We've gotten all this way and they have this point to make and it's an insult and it's meaningless because we're not even a third of the way through this.
say, no, it wasn't a first draft. I tried really hard. That's actually worse. So just claim it was your first draft.
Right. So go ahead.
They're putting
Good job,
for
idiot.
2 seconds. They go from the computer. They literally just talk.
Okay, so apparently Corbin, who's read so many Ditko comic books, doesn't understand basic comic book fucking language and completely misses out on the fact that you can go from one page to another page without showing every single action that took place within those pages. Okay, because here's how it works. They're seized by the guards, right? And then it says quite clearly, later in prison. Later in prison. I can highlight it right here. Later in prison. They were seized by guards later in prison. This cut is not confusing to anybody that has reasonable object permanence. Now I'm doubting Corbin's ability to track the permanence of an object. This is something that you develop in a crib.
John Henry Eden.
I already
you talk
explained
to on a speaker. And when you meet him face to face, it's a big deal because it reveals he's a computer in Fallout 3. In this, you already know he's a fucking computer, so
Right.
why does it matter that you talk to him on one of his smaller screens?
Yeah, it doesn't matter if he's all the computers. You only need to talk to one, really.
Yeah, because he is the big one giving all the orders.
But again, speaking with it individually is different than speaking with it in a big crowd. They never talk about this. They just completely miss that context. Again, it's convenient for them to miss that context. It's convenient for them to shit on this thing, to be dumber and more ignorant and dumber and dumber.
And then the computer, obviously, because again, his name is Official Computer. Okay, computer, haha, funny. He says okay every fucking sentence.
And it's still fun. They're only in prison for 2 seconds, and literally they're like, this is decidedly less fun than that originally smelled. Detainment is kind of growing on me, though. You think they'll use capital punishment?
Okay, detainment growing on somebody. That's a low-key joke about the prison system. That's about being, what do they call it? Institutionalized. Toe is becoming institutionalized. It's like another little joke about becoming institutionalized that they just miss.
They seem a bit placated for reactionary manslaughter. And
Another thing I want to point out here.
That's not even a criticism.
It took me until the third time I read it, and while I was editing, to realize
Yeah, that's because you're not fucking doing a good job. It took you this long because you did a bad job, and it's finally catching up, and you actually want to do a good job, but you're realizing that you've done such a bad job, but you're so proud of how well you shit on my comic that you can't realize that you've been doing a terrible job.
The reason So Long says man as a question is because he's a fucking cat. It took me that long to get that. Maybe that's just a skill issue on my part, but that was fucking... It took me that long to get that one. It's like...
Haha, it's funny. You finally got it. You're pointing out like, oh my God, it took me 3 times to get this joke. And then you fucking get it, and you're like smiling and you're thinking about the joke, and it's like, oh yeah, it is cute, it's fine. But you can't actually do it. It's like you can't actually say that because you have to maintain this false narrative that it's bad, and it's not.
Like, oh shit, they want to be... Like, he's like, I hope they kill us. I really hope they execute us. Wouldn't that be great?
yeah.
And then the computer is like...
Who has ever used the term man? Who has ever gone, man? Like, framed that as a question? Nobody ever has. You just had another fucking misfiring of your synapses while doing this.
Like, oh, we scanned your backstories, but he doesn't share with the
I would
class.
just like to say, with everything that Corbin just said, kid's story, by the way, right? This is supposed to be for kids.
Right, yeah, who is this for? This is written as a kid's story, but there's so many big words in this that he uses to, they're sentence enhancers.
That's one of those sentence enhancers.
And the themes are literally harvesting people and dystopias and all this other stuff. Like, this is supposed to be for
Harvesting people and dystopias are the main themes of fucking Galaxy Express 39 that was written and sold to children. Very specifically. You have no grasp on the history of narrative.
But basically, they talk to the computer, and the computer's like, oh yeah, we scanned your personalities and backstories, so now we know who you are. But again, he doesn't share with the class, so we don't get to
Mindscapes?
figure anything out about that. But then the computer said...
Yeah, why would the computer explain the backstories of the two people who know their own backstories, except for the part that they don't know? And we'll immediately talk about that part in the next sentence. Why would you go to somebody and describe their backstory to them? Wouldn't that be fucking stupid and boring exposition? Wouldn't you criticize that as, well, we really don't need this exposition here. Don't they know their own backstories? You want me to give you an exposition dump just so you can feel good? You mean that fucking narrative crutch that every fucking decent reviewer shits on?
Says, you know, you don't seem like you'd be fit for this stable utopia. And then he's like, but if it's a utopia, why do you need us or anything else? He says, utopia, dystopia, same thing. And then the cat says, not wrong. Here's the thing. Hardluck told me that this comic exemplifies his values. And this, to me, is the very not subtle message that this issue is supposed to have, right? Utopia and dystopia are the same thing. That's the message.
No, that's not the message. That is setting up something so that you can get the message. And it's kind of a lighthearted, it's kind of a goofy message. You're like, wait, you actually learn something about the characters through this situation. I'm giving you the basic rundown. Utopia, dystopia, same thing. Hey, let's run hey, come on. We've done this a million times, and I make a funny joke out of it.
And it's not subtle at all. Like, it's very clearly like him being really ham-fisted and like, utopia, dystopia, same thing. Not wrong.
And then he's like, so what's the catch? Where's the atrocity? Like, he hasn't already seen the atrocity, and he's like, okay, the information is encrypted. You'll need a...
You've seen no atrocity. So, Corbin, you're making a false assessment of the situation. We have seen zero atrocity. Other than the computer has admitted that utopia and dystopia are the same thing. But you have seen no... You've heard tell, you can deduct, but you have not seen any atrocity. That's why there's a full page visually explaining as much as... trying to visually explain more than verbally explain what the fuck happened. No. I never said that it was harvesting people before. You're confusing the fact that everybody's okay with the fact that their blood is going to be taken from their bodies after they're dead. That everybody, as far as we know, these people die. We infer that these people die. The fact that they die and they have their blood taken from them, they don't care. They don't care. Why would you care? Why do you care if your blood is taken from you? Now, some people might have a religious qualm. These people obviously didn't. There's been no atrocity so far. We've not discussed body harvesting. The harvesting, the blood tax at your end of your death, they don't really even recognize that as body harvesting. It's just like, oh, they're going to take all my blood. For who knows why, it doesn't matter. They don't know, they don't care. And it's after they're dead, they won't be using it anyways. So there's been no atrocity yet. But Corbin doesn't exist in this world. And Corbin wants to exist in this world. And he wants to be in the crowd and throw a fucking hammer toss at the CRT and say, you're not getting my blood after death. He thinks that's the atrocity.
It's like, what? He didn't need a password for you to just tell him you were harvesting people before.
Like, he literally said that they were harvesting the blood of the dead, and he mentioned it before. Like, he literally said that.
Right, but they don't care.
Now it's encrypted. And to be fair, this is the one joke that I think kind of works, is he's...
So what he discusses here has nothing to do with the blood tax. So it's additional information, and it is actually the literal backstory of this episode that has not been divulged yet. And then they go on to say, I made a good joke.
He's like, oh, you need a password. And he says, okay. And then he says, password accepted. I got a smile out of that. Just the password accepted. That was like, okay, that's kind of funny.
Yeah, I got a smile out of it too, but that's because it reminded me of fucking One Punch Man. I was just so...
I don't know what One Punch Man... I don't know, maybe the same joke is used in One Punch Man. You'll have to send me that, Shino. I have no fucking idea what you're talking about there. Again, another non sequitur from Shino. These guys brought in their fucking C-team guy to make sure they had a tripod of opinions. They got to bring in the objective opinion.
Well, like, oh, okay, that's something I'd rather be watching than reading this.
Right. Then the computer explains that they, you know, harvest civilizations and that they fucking, like, they just genocide people for their own benefit. And then
It doesn't describe exactly how this benefits them, though. Like,
yeah, it really doesn't.
They just kill people. It's kind of fun.
I'm sorry you didn't get exposition on the economics of the Snares planet and how the crops they grow off camera, you know, stimulate the economy, and they use the blood and then they, you know, from the dead, and, you know, sorry I didn't explain the inner workings, you know, sorry I didn't give you more, you know, you guys seem really curious about the world. It seems like some of your complaints are just like, I want to know more. I'm so curious.
It's entertaining.
What a horrible thing for a reader to be curious about what's going on.
Then they'd say, oh, well, we're your collateral damage. It's like, isn't literally everyone their collateral damage if they're literally, like, harvesting entire civilizations?
What's the end, like, collective good that this is supposed to be for? Like, what is the greater good?
Like clearly this is supposed to be
What is these guys are going off the fucking rails. I have no idea what they're trying to get at.
the bad guy, the computer is. But,
Yeah, that's what, like, with these dystopias, there's always, like, an actual, like, concept of a greater good that they're trying to achieve by doing this stuff, but it's not a...
That's not necessarily true. Not all dystopia has somebody trying to do a greater good. I don't know where that comes from. It's not based on the history of narrative. You may know that there are some dystopias that are like that. That's what you just said there, objectively false.
established in this.
And another thing I want to point out, right, because we've talked about this plenty of times before we actually sat down and read the whole thing. You know,
You didn't read.
Comparisons to 1980.
None of you have the right to say that you've read my comic. None of you have read it. You may have looked at it. You may have looked at every page, but the comprehension is not there.
I feel like tonally with the computer, and this is being very, very generous because this is a much better property than Hardluck's work. But tonally, I'd say it's the thing it's most tonally similar to is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
No, you remember reading it. You just didn't comprehend it. Comprehension is different than memory. I can help you with that distinction too, if you need more help.
Again, not in a good way. Like, it doesn't actually capture any of that soul.
Mm-hmm.
Because Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is infinitely better than this. But that's more the tone I would get than 1984.
And this is more pretentious than Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Right. But yeah, the computer's basically like, how do you guys get back?
I don't have to merit that statement at all,
No,
right.
Black out. But then they just use a bunch of magic fucking rainbow powers to, like, blast the hell out of the computer and then destroy the space station.
Okay, so they completely missed the point. And I'm going to talk about this. I haven't talked about it publicly yet, but I'm going to talk about the point of this episode. This is the point, okay? Basically, OK Computer explains, hey, we've been having to use up these civilizations, and then we had to use those resources to go to another one. But if we're able to use the endless plane of doors, which is not called the doorscape is the means of transportation between doors, and the endless plane of doors is how they get there, is the actual doors. So the doorscape is inside of a door, and you traverse through a doorscape to end up in a new world. Just so that's clear. And basically the computer says, hey, if we're able to use your doors to transport to different worlds and install our utopias, then we'll just create a trail of perfect civilization. So actually they had malfeasance in their intention up front out of necessity. But if they're able to utilize Toe and So Long's portals, then they'll be able to actually become benevolent throughout the universe. So what's being said here is that they have to put themselves up to create this chain of potentially actually perfect civilization, because they're running these civilizations perfectly, but it's just a resource problem. So they could actually just leave. Maybe they assume, hey, if we leave, we don't have to sustain ourselves on that planet. We'll instill the perfect civilization. And then without us, they'll have enough resources to take care of themselves. Maybe that's how they perceive it. And Toe's like, that does sound cool. And then, like they mention, So Long goes, but doesn't that make us your collateral damage? Okay, kinda. And they say, this is backstory. Here's some backstory, guys. You're not aware how you return to the endless plane of doors, which I don't know how everybody misses the difference between Doorscape and endless plane of doors when I make it pretty clear. But I don't know, read the comic actually read the comic with the intent to comprehend it. And then Toe explains, we black out and we wake up there. And then So Long clarifies, oh, that's actually the opposite of awareness. And then OK Computer goes, we're confident our technology can decipher your abilities within 3,000 years of complete bioanalysis. So essentially, they're going to test them. And So Long goes, animal testing? This is totally stressing me out. And so they're faced with the, they're not giving themselves up to create perfect civilization throughout the universe. That's the actual point of the fucking comic. Now, this is spoilers, and if you haven't read the comic, I'm sorry, and when I edit this for YouTube, I will put in a spoiler for Toe and So Long. But that's the fucking point. And then they fly and they get stressed out and they fly into a rage, a powerful rage that seems sporadic, out of nowhere. But we realize, oh, this is what happens every time. They go, they blow up the planet. Or no, they don't blow up the planet. They blow up this big spaceship that's circling the planet, which is got antenna on it. And it's got OK. It's made of an OK. And, you might infer that this is some sort of like centralized, computer system that they're using. And I also illustrated before. So there's the fucking point. There's the fucking point. That's what we learn about these characters. They're not willing to give themselves up for the rest of the perfect good of the universe, the intended perfect good of the universe. They're not giving themselves up for that. They have the ability, potentially, if they sacrifice themselves, to give themselves up to this, but they won't do that. That's just something you're going to learn about their character. I gave you guys all this backstory, all this information. You just didn't fucking pay attention to any of it. It's not hard to fucking understand. Okay, now they're going to talk about the dragon. They're upset about the dragon too. Just like Tim, because they didn't actually read the story, they're upset.
And then a magic dragon appears in space, and then they're just back at the Doorscape.
What the fuck's with the dragon?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any damn sense.
And but then it just ends with them going into another door. So another thing I want to bring up, since this resolved.
It does not end with them going into another door. That doesn't happen, but we'll let it go.
Door. I get no vibe that they are going to be pursued by this computer or anything like that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I get the indication that this.
I would assume blowing up this giant OK spaceship that I've shown you previously and made clear that it was associated with the main villain. They've been fairly disabled.
This is going to be a very episodic story. Yeah, so none of that fucking matters.
There are lots of episodic elements to the story, but you did learn overarching things about the story if you paid attention.
And it resolved this entire thing within a matter of seconds because they destroyed the computer and the space station and then got out of there.
Yeah, all they had to do was use their magical rainbow powers that were never established. They just had an ultimate weapon the whole time.
And again, at the end, they had to get out. They had to get out of the universe, but it never established that the door was gone in the first place. So we just had to kind of assume that.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff you have to.
Yeah, infer it. Why do I have to have a little narration box that says, and just like that, the door behind them no longer contained the Doorscape portal? Just go along. It's a fun cartoon. I'm not getting that deep yet. It's not that deep yet. And there's things to figure out. I just don't understand why you need it. I don't know why you need your handheld like a baby. I think maybe you think because this is for kids, or maybe because you're so used to getting stories told you like you're a kid by people who don't understand storytelling and think the kids need excessive hand-holding when they can, you know, when kids are the reason why The Hobbit and Marvel comics were so popular. I mean, college students liked it too, but college students have money. It's always been it's always been monetarily beneficial to appeal to like 18-year-old males. But maybe this doesn't appeal to 18-year-old males. I don't know. It seems that people are having fun. A lot of people describe it as fun. They seem to laugh. They seem to smile. Even when they don't want to smile, even when they don't want to enjoy it, they still smile.
Assuming this, like,
They just kind of forgot about the door.
Right. But yeah, the art is fairly
Forgot
generic.
about the door
like I
because
said.
it's not that big of a deal.
It's very clearly Cal Art style type stuff. The cat, like I said, kind of looks like Eek.
I'll take the Cal Arts compliment, unintentional compliment. I guess I definitely don't have Cal Arts training, and I don't think that the guy Alexis Vivallo is from Chile, so I don't think he had Cal. I don't know. And actually, there's a lot of shit I do here that I think Cal Arts people would like cringe at. So I don't know.
The cat. I say the NPC meme just because Toe is gray, but like honestly, he's not that similar to the NPC meme other than being. He's pretty similar actually. Never mind. He's similar. So
no, he's not.
It's really fucking funny that I made such a thing out of whether or not Toe was similar to the NPC meme when Eek the cat looks nothing like So Long. I was actually thinking of some kid's book that I can't fucking remember the name of that had a black cat with green eyes.
Stellar commentary. Stellar. I'm so glad you cut this in.
That was textured similarly.
What's up, Miss Chrysalis? Miss Chrysalis, we are in full combat mode. We're watching a really bad review of my comic book, and I am going over it and kind of breaking it down. And I think this is important for creators to see this kind of stuff because all creators are going to get trolled. All creators are going to get people who shit on their content, and it's important to, you know, not reject all criticism, but to understand the merit of the criticism. And we basically just been breaking down like this is going to be what your average group of trolls who don't like you does to you if you're getting noticed enough, if they become jealous enough to need to scheme something to try to tear you down. And so we're fighting it out a little bit here.
Long. But I can't for the life of me remember what the hell it was. So I put up like
I can't even remember what.
Texturing and stuff.
I can't remember what.
Showed it earlier.
Maybe put it in the comment. Is this
really
like
funny? How much I was like, oh, I don't know if.
Is this like dark engagement? You're like, I don't know. Put it in the comments, guys. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Characters have literally no personality at all.
Well, as Spencer said when we were talking before this, they all.
And like I said, I've heard people, you know, get like huge impressions off of these guys' personality. So I don't know, Corbin. I'm getting very different feedback from people who seem far more objective than you. Random strangers I've never met.
I'll just have the same personality.
Well, I mean, and it's not even much of a personality. They usually have like simple reactions to everything. They're just like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, like the computer says okay to everything, but the other characters might as well just all
Yeah, that's the whole fucking joke, right?
Be okay because
right. It's funny, like every time they try to point out something, then they like instantly have to put their foot in their mouth.
I mean, whatever you want to do with your civilization, I don't know. Like they seem okay with it until the end when they just get mad and then use rainbow powers.
But like I showed Theron.
Just because they don't make an extreme, you know, statement on the situation, they do finally make a statement on the situation. And they only make a statement on the situation when it affects them. And I think maybe there's a lesson of that there too. Maybe there's a lesson there, kids. Maybe shut your fucking mouth. No, I'm kidding.
Some of the panels of this, right? And you know how Theron is far less critical than me, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was looking at it and he's like, oh, the cat looks all right. And he's like, I really don't like that gray guy though. That's gross.
You heard it? Okay. As long as you guys I'm like deep in the zone right now. So as long as everybody else heard it, that's good. My notifications are working. I just fucking missed it.
Really hated Toe's design.
Yeah, it's like it's It's like he didn't even want to actually.
Okay, well, other people with actual artistic merit like the design, so I'm gonna lean towards the guy that liked it with merit than the guy who just pulls out of his ass that he doesn't like it without any merit. So
Actually, like, put in the effort to design a character. It's just
Right, it's like one of his.
you mean the character that a professional comic book artist said is a complete design?
Main characters, he's like, let's just draw like a blob, like a stick figure almost, like just a step above stick figure.
I don't think
And again, let's look back at Crazy Cat. Guys, you don't understand the history of comics. You don't even know about what was rated as the #1 comic of all time. Crazy Cat. It starts with Crazy and Cat have K's in the name. So that might piss you off, like official computer, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Go look up Crazy Cat, go look up the character designs there, and tell me their shit. Tell me their shit. But it's the most lauded comic ever made.
this was drawn by
yeah. Hardluck didn't draw this.
Oh, that's right, he didn't even draw his.
So you guys don't know, but that I'll take the heat for that. I created it, I designed the world, I designed the characters, I do the layouts for the pages, and I pass those layouts over to an artist to do the penciling and the inking, and then I take it back and I color it. So I am definitely an artist on this, and Fugitive will clear up, oh, well, writing is an art, but I am a visual. I'm an extremely heavy visual component to this. I'm just not doing the final lines. I have tremors, and it makes it kind of impossible to do like sequential art production in an efficient manner. I just at this point I can't do it. Maybe I'll train really hard, but for what I want to do with Toe and So Long, that's the production method I use now. So, but I am an artist on it because I have drawings of all these characters. I have drawings of every single page, but I've shown them off before.
Story. I forgot about that.
Because he says that he's a professional artist, and it's like, a professional artist of what?
But
everything
the
I just
dialogue is
explained.
really bad. The pacing doesn't make any sense. They resolve the issue incredibly quickly. They just go through the door. In fact, the part where they're going through the door and they're staying
The definition of reductionist.
there for a few panels looking at the door and pondering going in, that is honestly the only part that's even semi-normal paced.
Everything else just happens really fast. Like, literally, like the prison thing, they're locked up behind bars for literally 2 frames, and then they're immediately let out to talk to the same character.
You're so bothered that you turn the page, or maybe you don't turn the page, but you're so upset that you look at one page and then the next page, and that time has passed between those pages without you having seen what happens there. That's like such a big hang up to you. Like, you didn't get to see Toe and So Long being put into a cell. Like, Jesus Christ, dude.
So this-
Your story time. And this is not, there's an addendum later. This is not the artist. This is some random guy at a con holding the artist's book. If you had any acumen for comic books, you'd realize the setting and the context of this. The guy wearing the backpack on the other side of a table at a con is probably not the guy sitting at the other side of the table who made the comic book. I mean, the context, their context clues here for you. Grab onto them. Please slow down. If you would have slowed down, maybe this review would have been, maybe you actually could have made me feel bad about myself like you wanted to. But you're so incompetent at every step of the way. I just feel nothing but I'm entertained. I am entertained.
This is the guy who drew it. But
he has
He calls himself a
all
professional
sorts
artist, but he doesn't even
of other
draw
drawings.
when he doesn't even draw it.
He doesn't even draw it.
Drawing.
right.
Yeah, but he can a professional artist because he came up with a bunch of ideas that got made into a comic, or what?
Well, he wrote the script, which is evident because it's really bad.
Writer, would it not? Like,
Writers are artists, Corbin.
I guess, but it is like it's not even good in that.
Ah, shucks, I guess.
Like, how does a kid even understand that? Like a dystopia where they harvest people, like all this stuff. Like,
Well, again,
Exactly, Corbin.
Galaxy
Exactly.
Express.
So the thing I wanted to bring up was
One of the most popular children's
This is what I
Japanese
thought.
manga anime ever.
Things that I'm reading this to my kid, right? Bedtime story, right?
Yeah.
There are so many words in here a kid is not going to understand, and I'm going to stop to explain to them these.
Sounds like you're a lazy parent.
Which is absolutely stupid for a kid's story. Either I have to explain it to them, or I don't explain it to them, and they don't know what's going on.
Even if you explain this, they still wouldn't get it. They'd be like, "What?"
These are the words that I put together. I know I said it earlier. Drudgery.
Dirgery.
Drudgery.
Drudgery. Didgeridoo. Bro, as far as the English language is concerned, you might as well be a mental invalid at this point. Holy shit. Drudgery. What the holy shit? I couldn't write a joke that good. That's like airplane. That's like fucking an old joke, but a new spin on it, where instead of like saying a new thing, you just say the same thing again, like self-assured. You're comedically, talk about the lack of self-awareness. Who edited this and thought that it was a fucking kill shot?
Conceptualize, circumstantial, cusp. It's not a big word, but
it's not a common word for kids.
As a kid. Yeah, I didn't know that word as a kid, so I
hold on. This is great.
Down unconsequential. I mean, inconsequential. Yeah, so it's inconsequential. I know I put down like, oh, there it is. Okay. Doctrine, deceased.
You should set up a little vocabulary test for yourself with this list of words, where you're made to sit down and define each word, write a sentence containing each word, and then make sure you spell the word right too. And if you do that vocab test with this issue, I think you're going to do really good on your next exam.
Authoritarian.
That's the kind of practice that you need.
That makes him seem smart than makes something that...
Get over myself. You're the one trying to show me up intellectually and creatively with your brilliant assessment. But dirgery. Dude, you have no merit. This is a meritless review. I'm making an example of you. You should be ashamed of yourself.
That like kids can actually understand. Like he'd rather not his target audience understand, and rather have.
I hate my audience. I want them to know nothing.
Desensitized. I put detainment because there is just simply an easier word to use. You don't have to do that. I also put manslaughter and capital punishment because those are words that I don't want to explain to my child.
Again, it also does depend on the age group. Like, what age demographic is he going for?
This is great. What age group am I going for?
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like if it's like 8 to 12.
Wait a second. If it's 8 to 12, let's look. Let's look at something right now. Reading age 8 to 18. Huh. So I guess, again, if Fugitive would have educated himself on the topic before, if he would have done any research, if he would have done any due diligence in this review, literally at all, again, the reading age is 8 to 18. So yeah, we're on the same page. There's nothing wrong with the vocabulary. Nothing. There's nothing wrong with it. It's fine.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Placated, atrocities, encrypted, sorry. This is like a weird word.
So, unexpectation is not a word. If you're bringing up unexpectation, that's literally not a word. He just threw it in there.
Unexpectations and collateral. And then I also put 1984 reference because my kid's not going to understand the 1984 reference. Unexpectation actually is a word, though.
Unexpected.
Unexpected.
And they find it. I didn't expect unexpectation to be a word. It's great. It's great. Again, Fugitive doesn't even know which words are words. And he's evaluating my words? By what merit, sir?
Well, the opposite of expectation. And you didn't expect it.
Yeah.
Is unexpectation a word?
It's literally just...
All right, unexpectation is a word. I'll be damned. You know what?
You are damned, dude. Damned by your ignorance.
I will own that. My mistake.
It is a weird word.
This is one of many. This was you better get out a bucket. Get out a pail. Get out a large pail, and I'll fucking dump all your mistakes into there. And you can fucking dunk your head in it.
Now, granted, I think if kids know what expectations are, unexpectation is a simple enough one. And let me be clear.
Yeah, it's almost like kids in the 3rd grade understand prefixes and suffixes on root words.
It is okay to have a kid piece of media that has some stuff that goes over the kids' heads. Like, like for instance, there's some jokes in SpongeBob that go over your head and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But
but the thing that's not understood was literally the plot.
Right. Well, what I was going to say, but
Nothing.
There still has to be something they can gain from it. They still have to get some level of enjoyment. And with how esoteric a lot of these fucking words are,
esoteric.
I use esoteric in that way. How esoteric a lot of these fucking words are. Kids are going to get nothing from this story because the whole thing is just going to sound like a bunch of gobbledygook.
It's just a bunch of gobbledygook, guys.
At that point.
Yeah.
And I would also like to say it is okay to have kids content.
Even though I completely explained why and how everything happens, and if you had any level of reading comprehension, you'd be able to understand the story and understand why the story was told the way it was. I mean, everybody's getting so hung up on this thing that I treat dystopia extremely casually. Why is everybody thinking that that's the point? And then the moment of action happens, the moment of climax happens, and everybody seems to have forgotten the panel before it. I don't understand. Maybe they wouldn't forget it if they actually went into it like wanting to have a good time. I don't know.
Have big words in it too. That is a good learning opportunity for the kid to learn this big word.
Yeah.
But when it's that many words, some of those words that I read off, 3 of them are in the same page. I'm going to have to stop for those 3 words to explain to them this word and what it means and what context you use it in. But yeah, like I remember a long time ago.
I remember enjoying that actually a lot. So doing it 3 times would be too much. I actually enjoyed it.
She explained to me what it was, and that was a cool learning experience.
Yeah, that was a cool learning experience. So I'm going to put more cool learning experiences in your media for 3rd graders, mind you. For 3rd graders who are not mentally like completely what was it? They've been doing vocab tests for a couple years at this point. They're getting a grasp on the English language. They might be at a point where bigger words are cool to them. Maybe they're excited by language. God forbid. You seems like you were excited by language. You obviously lost that excitement because you don't know what drudgery is. Dirgery. You act like it's mispronouncing it. It's like you've also misspelled it.
Word was based off of that.
And like a good example would be like the Series of Unfortunate Events series. Each of those books has at least one big word that the characters themselves don't get, and then it is explained in the story, and then is later just reused once you have been given the explanation.
I was literally just about to say that too.
Yeah, like every book has at least one word that it teaches you.
Yeah, my mom read Lemony Snicket to me up to the 6th volume.
Okay. I think that his
So, essentially, you want your handheld, and you can't go... Like, every 3rd grader doesn't have an iPad that they can instantly go on Google with if they don't know what a word is.
Shallow.
And any parent that doesn't know what all of those words mean should be ashamed of themselves. You should already know what these words mean, and if you didn't know unexpectation was a word, you knew what it meant at least.
And pedantic.
Yes, I agree. Shallow and pedantic. So, some constructive points I would give. Maybe the pace.
This is the constructive section, guys. Let's reconstruct. Let's build something up here.
Pacing. I would say if you're going to have a story.
Now, again and again and again is pacing. The pacing. This old hacky anime review fucking term where nobody knows what it fucking means. Oh, there's too much action. There's not enough action. Oh my God, he didn't show me the characters walking to a jail cell. This pacing is awful. But you know that the exact same thing they would say, oh my God, why do I need to see them walk into the jail cell? The pacing is awful. It's like the points that Corbin gets hung up on are so backwards versus what his actual critique is. Doesn't make any sense.
If this is indeed not
meritless review.
Then great. But it seems like everything is resolved pretty quickly in this story. And it just gives you kind of whiplash.
Well, it's twice as long as your average comic book. I mean, maybe you just didn't take the appropriate amount of time. Maybe instead of just reading the words as fast as you could and glancing over the artwork. Maybe it was intended that you actually look at the artwork.
With how quickly it just jumps from one thing to the next, it's like, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. So maybe pace it out a little better.
No, there's no and then this happens. There's no and then this happens. Literally, that is never. Every section of the story is consequential to the next part of the story. There's not a single part of the story that's not where something inconsequential happens. Everything is a consequence of the action before it. The exposition I give you up front tells you that they've been doing this forever. Okay? They go to the doors, they explore new worlds, they've been doing it forever. Okay? Because of this, they continue to do their routine. They go to a new world, they land in a new world, they experience something. Because they went through the door, they went to a new world. And then you are introduced to a new world. It's not, and then this happens, it's consequence. And then they see something happening. They see a crowd forming. And they see, okay, because we went here, we're experiencing this world. In the world, this happens. Because that happens, they identify what's happening. Oh, this is the same old dystopia that we've been to before. Should we do something about it? Wait, look. It continues. The action continues sensibly. Because they were in the middle of an announcement, they continue to do announcements and they pay attention. They listen deeper. Because of that, they realize, because they were sent to this world randomly and they don't look like anyone else, they're identified as strangers. Because they're identified as strangers, they're sent to a jail cell. Because they're identified with strangers and contained, the OK computer can have a look at their mindscapes and evaluate who they are. Because of who they are, the OK computer decides to leverage them. Because of that decided decision to leverage Toe and So Long, they react. In their reaction, it brings about the reason how they get back to the plane of doors. Because of that action, they're dropped off in the plane of doors. It ends. Every step of the story is consequential. It's sequential. There's no and then this happens. It's all sensible. It's a wacky world. It's a wacky, colorful world. I'm sorry if that's throwing off your sense of, what is consequential. Maybe you're not able to relate to the characters because they're too colorful or simple. Maybe you're only able to empathize with something that looks like you. Maybe that's a deeply rooted pathological social emotional problem that you have. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out. It's harder to figure out how you guys are thinking about the comic than the comic itself. Your criticisms are always wrong.
Beginning where they're looking at the door is, like I said, the only part that's kind of normally paced. The OK thing was really obnoxious. Like, you probably thought...
Actually, the beginning when they're looking for the door, I would say that's slow pace. I don't think that's a normal pace. I think that's very deliberate and slow. And then everything speeds up a bit. And then it slows down when you get the exposition at the end again, where you're learning about everything. You take your time, you read your words, and then it speeds up again. So slow, fast, rising action, falling action, rising action, climax, end. And the little soft panels at the end.
Thought it was kind of quirky and fun, which I think is a lot of what he's going for in this comic, is to try and be like really quirky. I would say
quirky is a very angry term these days. You're never calling anything quirky positively. Everything that's quirky is now vilified.
Degree of that, but try
especially
not to
by
make
these
it
guys that can only empathize with another face that looks like theirs.
Another thing I would say is give the characters more personality, more development. And, maybe the dialogue, it just doesn't feel like genuine dialogue. Like, if these characters are in some sort of weird...
if these characters are in some sort of weird, oh my god! It's almost like it's cartoonish dialogue for a cartoon.
Time loop or something.
And it's not gonna sound like fucking Peter Parker talking to whatever Mary Jane pot smoke. Whatever her fucking name is. And even that doesn't sound like fucking natural dialogue. If you're going to say Stan Lee sounds like natural dialogue, yeah, maybe natural dialogue in 1945. And only then in like an aristocrat's house.
Something, and it turns out that they're just kind of stupid because they've just been going through the same shit or whatever, then that's fine, whatever. But we don't really know that yet. Like, all we know is they've been
Yes, you do.
similar experiences.
Right.
And I didn't get the vibe that it was exactly the same, because it said, oh, well, these
No,
guys seem to
it
be
wasn't.
enjoying it.
Like
I don't understand what this is just another senseless fucking argument. Doesn't make
I
any
know that
sense.
sometimes with art, it's better to leave things unexplained, but did you have to do that with everything?
Right.
I didn't do it with everything.
Like, there are some things that could use explanation. I think that,
I did explain things. You weren't reading the explanations.
again, the characters should probably have more fleshed out personalities to make them distinct enough from each other. Because right now, Toe and So Long, their personalities are completely interchangeable. I can't tell the difference between either of them, other than their
Other
names.
people
That
have
was going to be what I was
been
going to
able
say.
to, so I don't know.
I was going to say make Toe and So Long different personalities,
Yeah.
and make it that they actually seem like friends.
The simplistic one, like the would he be Toe?
Yeah,
Or
that's
which
Toe.
one's okay? Like Toe, he can.
Okay, they didn't even take the time to distinguish between the characters, so I'm gonna believe this guy's actually done any due diligence to understand the story. He's not even sure which character's which.
Be like the simplistic character, sure. Like give him like the limited dialogue lines, but the cat, like a cat could have lots of personality. Like give like that you could. I don't think it would be hard to give them.
Come on, get out the personality hammer and start smacking me in the head with it. I need it.
Yeah, and make it that they are like, I don't know, like I get that they are kind of friendly to each other.
You don't
in
know. That's
this,
the point.
But I feel like considering that by their words, this is like an endless journey that they go on. I feel like
It's an endless routine. Did I say it was an endless journey? That's Galaxy Express 3.9. Galaxy Express is 3.9. It's a never-ending journey. I didn't say this was a never-ending journey.
they should be closer, especially since we're not starting.
Also, like, if you're not... Okay. The explosive, like, character juxtaposition you're looking for... Have you ever spoken with like an old happy married couple? I know none of your parents are probably fitting this. Mine aren't either. One is dead. But imagine a happy old married couple. Are they like explosive with their interactions? Do they have like this excessive dramatic interplay constantly? If you have a solid old friend, which I have at least one, I may be loud and bombastic, but there's no implicit, need for it to be explosive. And that's not who these characters are. They're not loud, screaming characters. Like I've said before, it's like Adventure Time meets Rick and Morty without all the screaming. It's not that nothing is ever loud. It's that, in Adventure Time, there's literally a character called Lemon Grab that just screams all the time. That's not what this show is. That's not what this comic is about. It's about something a little bit more subtle, a little bit more subtle delivery. If somebody's not coming to your comic book in bad faith and doesn't understand subtlety in any way, shape, or form, I don't know. They come to you in bad faith and just be wrong constantly.
In the story from the beginning.
This is eventually what it comes down to, though. Thank God we're almost fucking done with this shit. But by the end of it, you realize how big of a waste of time it is. Like how big of a waste of time it is. The reason I'm going to go over this is because I haven't gotten to talk enough publicly about my story. So this felt like a good opportunity for me to kind of flesh out some of the ideas, share people what I'm thinking about the story. And I understand that people aren't going to fucking perfectly, they may not have seen something like this before. And that was the fucking intention, because I don't make things that are the same as all the other things. So if you're reading this expecting to be able to grasp onto something archetypal that you feel safe with, well then, you're not the kind of reader I'm going after. That you sound like the opposite of adventure. That's the opposite of adventure. And it's not a misadventure either. It's boring. You're looking for the same thing that you can understand. You're looking for something that you can understand, and your ability to comprehend is so bad, it makes sense why you guys look for the same old thing that you can understand again and again, because you don't have a dynamic thought process or even basic reading comprehension, at least when your mindset is in this bad faith, you just can't do it.
And I should feel that in the dialogue, like that they shouldn't be questioning each other because they should understand each other.
And
what the fuck is that? It just comes like, have you ever dated anybody for an amount of time? They shouldn't be questioning each other. They shouldn't be assessing new situations collaboratively. They should just know. Okay, so they should talk less? What the fuck is your point? That's meritless.
I also think that, because in this, I agree, they just kind of seem sort of indifferent to each other. Like, they don't really seem like friends. So I do agree that is a...
different to everything.
It's like, okay, because they're not having an explosive interaction, they can't be friends. But then the other guy says, well, they shouldn't even have to discuss anything. That's how good of friends they should be. Like, they're so contradictory in how they both shit on it, but at the end of what the other one says, they go, yeah, that sounded like you were shitting on him. Yeah.
Thing.
Yeah, they seem completely apathetic to everything.
So they use their rainbow powers.
Yeah, when they use their...
Right. They deal with the situation casually because they have expertise in the matter. And then when they need to act, I show them clearly reacting with some level of severity. Yeah, that was the whole fucking point.
The rainbow powers, that's like the one thing where they don't seem apathetic. Because, they get all fired up and then attack the computer.
Right, because they were being asked to give up their individuality for this hypothetical series of perfect civilizations across the galaxy, and they turn it down. How'd you miss that, buddy?
Hardluck, who calls everybody a sociopath.
And a great thing is, Hardluck, you have a lot to work with on duo characters. You got Jack and Daxter, you got Ratchet and Clank, you got...
This guy's first fucking Neversoft video games. Like, this is his reference for duo characters. This is what I should be grabbing from Jack and the great literary classics like Jack and Daxter. That's what I should be grabbing from, not fucking Crazy Cat. Again, here we go. Crazy Cat. Trust me, I know more about narrative and storytelling and this kind of storytelling than you will ever know. I've forgotten more about it than you'll ever know. That's the whole statement. So, trust me, I'm not going to go back to the classics of Jack and Daxter to find my characters. No, I don't think I'm going to be going to Jack and Daxter or Ratchet and Clank. This shows you the kind of person that's doing this literary analysis right now. This guy's a real fucking gamer. This guy's a real fucking gamer. Let's talk about the history of video games and narratives and how they go together most often like peanut butter and mayonnaise. I'm not saying you can't tell a story with a video game, but Jack and Daxter and Ratchet and Clank are not gonna be my go-tos. I'm gonna read Crazy Cat, thanks. I'm gonna go to an actual classic with actual storytelling merit, not Ratchet and Clank. Sorry, gamers. That's not, maybe Ren and Stimpy. Fucking, you could have said anything and you said fucking Ratchet and Clank and Jack and Daxter. No shade on those games, fun buddies. But if that's what you need out of it, I don't want to give that to you. It's subpar. It's less than. You liked the story because you had fun collectathons between those bits of comedy writing. You didn't like it because it was a great narrative. You liked it because I get the bolts. I'm gonna get all the bolts. Boss fight, I got a big gun. That's why you fucking liked it.
Jake and Finn.
That's literally what Sergeant Friends is best at, I think.
Yeah, Sergeant Friends. There you go. Pedro and Sarge. Great duo.
Yeah, that has lots of duo.
I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to review Sergeant Friends because I'm sure
I'll tell you
there's
this,
the
most of
N-words.
the characters that me and Corbin write for Sergeant Friends are duos because Corbin and I have a very good back and forth. Like that those tend to be the best characters that we make because Corbin will come up with a personality for one, and then I'll come up with a personality that can bounce off that.
You guys are like Eastman and Laird.
And
Pudge.
yeah.
Or obviously Sergeant
I'm betting that neither of you know who Eastman and Laird are.
Pedro.
Oh yeah, and what's
But at this point, you'll just be able to Google it, so we're not gonna trust it. I guess I didn't
what's
give
the
you a
little,
fair contest to decide if you knew who Eastman and Laird were.
The deputy and the nerd.
yeah, the deputy and the nerd.
Yeah, or Gay and Quiet Rob. Like duos can be pretty easy to come up with a good way to make them go back and forth.
His name is just Gay.
Yeah, because it's a parody of Jay and Silent Bob.
No, I get it. It's just Gay.
Anyway,
That's what cracked Shino up. Oh, you called him gay? Dirgery. So that's that. That's me going through all this bullshit. A lot of it was bullshit. A lot of the, a lot of these reviewers, guys, I hope that I know a lot of people are out there watching tons of review content on YouTube. That is predominantly what's on YouTube right now. I would say review is generally worthless. I would say that, I think that we have so much like crowd data on individual takes that, simply making a video on YouTube that's simply a review, and this does not, the second video here that we watched today, to me, it does not count as a review. This is just trolling. These are people who didn't take the time to actually understand the material or who weren't intellectually capable of understanding the material. And I think that there are plenty of children who are smarter than all three of these guys put together. They may not be able to run a warehouse, but as far as literary understanding goes, I think that children are often very in tune with storytelling because stories are such an instrumental part of their lives. They may not know the deeper subtleties, they may not know the history, but the ability to comprehend a story, I feel like all three of you have lost some ability to comprehend a story from your childhood. And I think that most adults do. So I think this very backwards understanding that the children are too stupid to get it, and if I struggled with it, how is a child going to understand? I think the history of narrative and storytelling and what's effective and what's not goes to show that adults generally do tend to lose bits of their imagination that help keep them in touch with what is important to storytelling. They become far too analytical. They become too dependent on, narrative exposition in these boxes and comic books. They need that to, and again, we're losing our ability to read an image because of, everybody is all about the merits of being able to read letters and words. That's a good thing. I'm not against being able to read. But if we lose our ability to assess visuals and understand aesthetic and the visual and the marriage of visual and text, then we're, we do lose something about ourselves there. And I don't think that any of you have grown your ability to do that since you were a child. I think you've all definitely lost parts of that. You're intellectually stunted is what I've taken away from this. Rabbi, I've just proved you all wrong so much. Just seeing you all in chat right now, it's a real blessing to have you all here because it shows you all seething. There's a nice, fine, definitive record of you all seething while I completely dismantle all of you intellectually publicly. And there's a crowd here for it. I'm glad there's a crowd here to see you guys get, shame. The shame that you should feel. Other people are embarrassed for you. It's clear that's the case. And it's, eventually you have to take accountability for how bad this was. Or, you'll continue to try and troll me. That's fine. I mean, do either one. It doesn't matter to me. I need the criticism. I love bad criticism because that's exactly what the masters got. All the masters got the bad criticism. So, the wrong bad criticism. So, and bad on multiple levels, right? Bad on them, but also bad, just poorly done criticism. An absolute failure. So first video had some merit. The one guy had more of the feelings that these guys had, but he wanted to be cordial. These guys just wanted to be assholes and go into it with bad faith. And because of that bad faith, they made terrible arguments and were wrong more than a handful of times. And I think it was funny. I think these people are funny. I think that Toe and So Long is doing quite well, in my opinion. For issue 1, we raised a little over $1,000. Now the goal was lower. I've set the goal higher this time to around that $1,000 mark. We are a week ahead in terms of earnings. He acts out as if he's he should be, as if he's intellectually merited, as if the words that he says, all these guys do it. But Corbin is fun to rail on because he harasses me and sends me like crudely drawn pornography in Discord chat because it's a weird kind of sociopath. He's actually got a video on his channel where he takes a test to see if he's a sociopath, and then he's a sociopath, and then he's like, feeling is bad. We could go how deep is this rabbit hole of how terrible this person is, like, on all these different levels. And this is just the kind of person that shows up when you're a creative and you're having a successful Kickstarter and people are giving you validation and telling you they're enjoying you. And if they don't enjoy you because, maybe you've proven them wrong endlessly and made them feel inferior, they're going to have to step up and make this little video and get their friends together and then make themselves look like assholes. And then I'm going to go live and show them how they've all been assholes, but they're still going to feel good about themselves. But I'm making this for others that they can see the kind of behavior that we get from these degenerates and what they'll do to you when you are creative and when you start to get your wheels going. If you're not getting this kind of shit, if you're not receiving this kind of pain, intended pain sent in your direction, if people aren't trying to make you feel bad about what you're making, then you're not making anything good. You're making something good when people come at you ignorantly, stupidly, and flail themselves at you and cry out, "It's so bad," but all of their reasons are wrong, and you could prove them wrong, and any objective. The next time you want to do something like this, I really encourage you to keep all of your assessments subjective, so that I can't shove it in your faces easily. I'm sure I could still do it. I'm sure I could still, make a subjective argument that makes you look fucking stupid. But there's a chance that, it might be a little harder. This time it wasn't hard. Oh my God, there's still this fucking update.
Addendum and update to the review I just did on the comic Toe and So Long by Captain Hardluck. It has been brought to my attention that the guy that I said was the artist in the picture was not the artist. I did think that guy didn't look like an Alexis.
I knew it all along. But I left it in there because I'm a hack.
So, there you go. Like I said, I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong. As I expected, Hardluck did not respond to any of the criticism. He didn't really take any of it in. He just said that we misread it and had reading comprehension issues. So, okay, cool.
Just so everybody sees what I just did, I completely dismantled your entire argument and it basically left nothing there but empty subjective fluff that means nothing because you have no merit.
Yeah. But On top of that, I do want to say, apparently his demographic is 8 to 18, which, I said, that's fine for the themes. That's a disagreement Corbin and I had, actually, in the review, as to whether or not the themes would be appropriate for a kid story, because I think kid stories can have...
I'm pretty sure you at some point agreed,
that kid stories can't have darker themes. I think there's a little bit of a disagreement on scale we had, because he doesn't think a kid can understand, like, a Randian dystopia. I think when done correctly, it can be done just fine. And as I said, I do think it's fine if some things go...
Ayn Rand was written for children. It was written for, like, 14-year-old boys. It's written for children. But I think an 8-year-old could understand Ayn Rand. If I handed an 8-year-old Anthem is not complicated at all. Anthem is easy to read. It's children's literature.
Over their heads. So, like I said, there was a minor disagreement maybe on scale, and there were moments I pushed back in the review itself, because, again, I wanted to be as honest and forthcoming as possible. And obviously, I do agree it does...
I think there are youth adult novels that have those kind of topics in them. So, again, youth. These are meant for, like, 15-year-olds. 15-year-olds are children. But I don't think... Yeah, okay, maybe a little edgy for an 8th grader to read about rape, but I'm not talking about that in mine. Ayn Rand is still for children. 14-year-old boys are children. 14-year-old boys can handle the topic of, that.
Does need to be understandable to the target demographic. Again, I think certain 8-year-olds certainly can understand this story to an extent. I mean, other than the poor writing. But, point is...
Other than the poor writing?
I'd find that shit really fucking boring. And I feel like a lot of the themes are a lot more childish than even an 8-year-old would like, which is why I think 8 to 18 is an interesting target demographic to have for it, because it just comes across as really childish, which I know I'm not elaborating a lot on. Granted, he calls Go Nagai childish. So. Oh, also, he unironically...
Go Nagai has a childlike imagination. His ideas are sporadic. If you want to talk about fucked pacing, holy shit. Go Nagai is off the wall. Go Nagai... Oh my god. Go Nagai has bad pacing. It's really bad.
Compared himself to Tolkien, and then calls us delusional. But that's just me. Maybe there's some kids that are more brain dead. I don't know. Like I said, the comic shit, I stand by every criticism I have.
This is what this little bitch does. He just goes, maybe dumb kids, but you're the dumb kid. You're dumber narratively, with understanding narrative. You're dumber than you were when you were a kid. I know that for a fact because of how poorly you read this thing.
I just wanted to set the record straight on that because, that's the kind of guy I am. And it's funny, because, like, anytime
I'm a straight shooter.
Admit anything wrong or anything like that, obviously, that's just a point he'll use to act like I'm unintelligent or anything like that.
Yeah, when you're wrong, you're not... I don't see you as more intelligent. When you consistently fuck up every point you have to make in a review, where I have to stop every minute to show how you're wrong, yeah, you seem unintelligent.
Rather than actually saying it as what it actually is, and it being humility, which I know is ironic to talk about.
I want to go back. I've been ignoring you guys, but I want to read this fucking chat and see just how fucking humble all of you have been every single time you fuck up in this review. Oh, I mispronounced a word. Big deal. That's what I saw. I saw you trying to dust your shoulders off.
One other thing I forgot to put in the video, and that's the fact that according to Amazon itself, his comic has navigation issues. It says right there on the Amazon page. I'll show you here.
I don't have a problem with childlike imagination. I don't, because I think it's important, but it's so much. It's just never focused ever. He's just off the fucking walls. He just blows up, and his narrative is just... His narratives suffer because of it, because the meaning of his narratives doesn't seem very potent because he just kind of lashes out. It's kind of like a child just like, it's not, it's poorly, that's literally poor pacing. When you just have random explosions of creativity, but I understand because it's probably the only way he could, make manga at the volume that he was making it. So it was necessary for him to just, idea vomit on the page every once in a while. And, it sold. So fuck it, I don't like it, but you guys do.
So here we have...
I will say, so I had a really hard time making this ebook. I downloaded 3 proprietary pieces of software from Amazon. The first 2 I downloaded apparently were antiquated. So, and I don't know why it was so hard, why they weren't just like, hey, don't use this software, use this software. And then I re-updated it. I was told by somebody there was a problem, so I understood the problem. I fixed the problem. I showed that person, but this was a customer. I showed them, I was like, hey, how is it now? They're like, it works great. It's perfect, great. I email Amazon, I say, hey, can you review it again? I had an update to it, you know, and they're saying, oh, there's still problems here. Can you explain to me the problems? Can you show me what the problems are? My customers are saying it's fine. It looks fine to me. What is the problem? I'm not going to go buy a fucking Kindle to fix this problem. And they said nothing back. So I don't know what the fucking problem is. If you read the comic on Amazon, I will personally refund you. If you buy this on Amazon and you find some sort of navigational problem like he finds here, if you find any of the problems with the quality issues after you buy this, I will personally refund you if you show me what the problem is. Because I don't know what the problem is. I don't know how to fix it. It's a platform user issue. They're not giving me the information I need. I'm not going to do endless hours of research to fix this issue. I might try re-uploading it again in the future, but right now I'm running a Kickstarter and there's a delay between a re-upload and a reapproval, and I don't want somebody to show up and not be able to buy it. So, and I don't know what the fucking problem is, so I'm not going to spin my wheels. If you guys ever had to do anything creative, you would understand everything I just said as a reasonable explanation for this quote unquote quality issue reported that I can't verify in any way, shape, or form. But you're not creative, and you don't have merit, and you don't understand these processes. So I'll accept that it has a quality issue. If anybody is worried about it and they don't want to buy it because they think there's going to be a quality issue, I will give you the money to buy it. And if you agree to pay me that money, if you can't find a problem with the ebook. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on with it. I'm having a problem. How dare I have a technical problem with my book?
I have the Amazon,
but feel empowered.
Amazon says quality issues reported.
I don't know where this broken navigation is. He can't verify it.
The publisher's been notified to correct
He doesn't verify it. He just takes Amazon's word for it,
and it still says that.
And hey,
now, granted, I also think it's funny.
fine.
He puts this little cute line. He thinks it's really funny. Computer, are you okay? Are you okay?
He
Computer?
thinks it's really funny. I think it's kind of funny.
Like literally just like smooth criminal line, like very funny, like whatever, like it's fine. Like I said, we make bad jokes from time to time too, but
Can't bad jokes be funny?
also like he clearly surrounds himself with yes men, and
Because I don't want Corbin in my Discord talking about the evils of Abraham Lincoln and being consistently wrong and never accepting that he's wrong. After being proven wrong, after he misquotes Lincoln and then feels like, oh, well, I was close enough, when the difference is like, anyways, there's nothing you can do about it. These people, why would I want them in my fucking life? I don't have all yes men in my fucking life. I fucking wish that I had people around me who would just say yes to everything I fucking ask them. I fucking wish, buddy. You must think I have a really great life. Are you jealous?
5-star rating right out the fucking gate. I would personally question if that was genuine, because objective masterpieces don't get 5 out of 5. Also, another point, obviously, and I'll acknowledge this again.
Rabbi, you have no merit to your understanding of narrative. You've proven this time and time again. You simply stating that you understand Go Nagai better than me means less than nothing.
I clearly went into this biased, and I make no pretense about that. I still tried to be open-minded, and it still came across bad. In fact, it was worse than I expected it to be. But in case there were any misunderstandings about whether or not I was biased, obviously I was biased. But I did get 2 of my friends who don't even really have an opinion on Hardluck to look at it, being Spencer and Theron. And Theron, not being a very critical analyst, who typically is very charitable in his interpretation, he typically gives MCU schlock plenty of undue credit and leeway. And even he had his criticisms. Like, he didn't read the whole thing, I just showed him panels from it. Spencer...
Oh, a guy that you randomly showed panels to with an obvious bias predating that. Yeah, he should have loved it. Damn.
Did read the whole thing, and you guys obviously heard his opinions in the review. But those guys don't necessarily have a reason to hate Hardluck, other than, of course, that they're my friends, and I guess you could argue that there might be some bias by association.
Yeah, obviously.
But nevertheless,
I guess.
they had no reason to have any expectations going into it. So I guess really there's only 3 more words I have to say that sum up the quality of Hardluck's comic, and that's guards, seize strangers.
It's very moving, sir.
Yet again, he didn't get the fucking computer joke that I explained, and he thought it was a fucking kill shot. This guy's like, I fucking got him in my sights. I'm gonna get him with this one. And then it's a fucking Elmer Fudd fucking gun backfire, and it fans out, and he's got fucking black soot all over his face, and he looks like an idiot. You're fucking Elmer Fudd, bro. You're fucking I'm Bugs Bunny, you're Elmer Fudd. You're like 3 Elmer Fudds. You're like Elmer Fudd, Yosemite Sam, and fucking, I don't know, Foghorn Leghorn. I guess Bugs Bunny goes up against him at least once. Porky Pig. I guess one of you, old school Porky Pig. Maybe it's the guy who went dirgery 4 times. Everybody else that was here but you 3 perfectly understands that you're all ignoramuses and you simply came to the conversation in bad faith. But I'm glad you did, because it gave me an opportunity to talk to artists and to talk to people who might be interested in my story or maybe were confused about the story. And if you were confused about the story and if you had any of the thoughts that these guys had, I don't know, maybe, work on your reading comprehension. Maybe, if you don't like the aesthetic of something, if you're used to something else, and this is just going to piss you off if you read it because you can't handle, like, the bright colors or the cartoony look of it, the aesthetic bothers you, it's not what you're used to, then just don't fucking do it. Then just don't read it. That's fine with me. Obviously, there are plenty of people who see this on Instagram and say, I like that. That's good for me. I like it for this, that, and the other reason. That it's so cute. This is so cute. This is so fun. I love your post on here. I love your prose and your poetry. Oh, I love all these things I've heard on Instagram unprompted from people I don't know. So I'm going to go for those people. And while I'm shooting shotgun spray to try and get people interested in this, there's going to be people who are hit who don't like it. But then there's also going to be these 3 fucking amigos who don't know anything, who prove they don't know anything, and have a bad faith in their argument. And these people are great. There's just, you never have to care about these people, but I want to show you how you can kind of break down what is and isn't worthy in a review. Hopefully somebody got something out of this like that. I think it's pretty clear that these guys don't know, don't understand, make it clear they're ignorant, and are just going to stick to their ignorance. And there's, not much you can do about that. But hey, why worry about it? Just do something like this. Just have fun with it. Just make more content out of their bad content and do an actual slam poetry jam on their asses. And actually, this is actually damning. What they've done to me is nothing. What I've done to them is horrifically embarrassing. To prove you all wrong in retrospect, and then you're still wrong after you come up with a day 1 patch to your review. It should be indicative of something poor if you have to day 1 patch it, right? Shit, guys. I mean, it's not good. It's not looking good for y'all. And yeah, definitely be ashamed. Definitely be bothered by what you've had, feel that shit. Thank you so much for the